Hello, everybody on the interwebs that's tuning in right now. It is 7 o'clock on a Tuesday. You're probably thinking, hey, this should be the renewed show where we talk about jokes and work that stuff out. Normally, you'd be right. But today, we're doing something a little different. Instead of reworking jokes, I made a last minute decision to and it was inspired by the person that's actually going to be joining me. We decided to do a fun little thing about festival for production, talking about some of the bombing aspects that go on behind the scenes and doing kind of a Q&A. And my guest, I'm going to bring him in, is Brandon Young, who is a great comedian, also does a lot of production stuff, or did do a lot of production stuff. He's produced tours, shows, comedy festivals. We actually started working together back in San Diego, and we've done a lot of stuff together. So I'm going to bring him in right now. Let's welcome Brandon Young. What's up, buddy?
Hey, Dan, how's it going, sir? My dog's going nuts right now, so perfect timing.
Right? It is perfect timing. Oh man. So we're gonna for the people tuning in, we're gonna be talking about comedy festivals and just some of the stuff that goes on behind the scenes. And if you have any questions, this is also a comedy festival Q&A. Just go ahead and ask your questions in the comments, and we'll try to answer them the best we can. If you're curious about our experience, Brandon Young and well, I don't know why I keep saying your full name. It's right there. Brandon and I started working on the San Diego Comedy Festival like 7 or 8 years ago. I think 2014, right in that ballpark. Yeah. Since then, neither one of us are with them. I mean, we were with them for a little while. We've produced the Paul Bunyan Comedy Festival together, and then I've also produced the Snow Jam Comedy Festival. Plus, we've done a lot of production of live shows just in general, both together and separately, and tours that have went all the way across the country, if you will, statewide tours. So we have a lot combined. We have a lot of knowledge about comedy. And you just filmed a Dry Bar comedy special back in January. That's probably going to be coming out pretty soon. And so, yeah, so we got some knowledge. If you guys have the questions, just put them in the comments. I'm going to say, hey, what's up, Derek? Thanks for watching. So let's talk about this a little bit. So while we're waiting for some questions to come in, what are some of the things? Because when you approached me this morning about how I should do an art of bombing, like a between bombs, and talk about bombing as a festival producer and like some of the things that go on behind the scenes. And so what kind of inspired you? What was there something that you remember from producing?
Well, I was actually listening to your Larry Smith Art of Bombing episode, and that's pretty much, that sums it up. Larry Smith bombed at Paul Bunyan Festival. I love that. It actually got me thinking of like all because we produced obviously the first three. I did the first 3 years of the San Diego Comedy Festival with you. You did the first 5, but then you and I did the Paul Bunyan Comedy Festival for a couple of years, and I just started thinking about all the cool people that we met, but then all the stress that went behind those events. So that's kind of what inspired it. So I was like, hey, why don't you? I actually wanted you to do it by yourself.
I was like, no, it's your idea. You're going to join me.
Everything I did with the festival was gold. Everything you did was not gold. So
I was like, yeah, we gotta bring you in on this. Yeah, because it is interesting, because there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that comics don't realize. I mean, as soon as a festival, asks for a submission fee, people automatically, there's a lot of people, I shouldn't say every comedian, but there's a lot of comedians that are like, oh, well, it's a sham. They're just trying to take our money and blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Which, there are some festivals that do that.
Yeah, which is true. I mean, you and I, we don't even have day jobs anymore. We're still living off that first year of the San Diego Festival where you and I made negative money.
Yeah, exactly. Where we gave our time, our full 100% of our time. And because here's the thing, too, that people don't realize. A festival, even though a festival only takes place in a few days. Whether it's like a 3-day festival or a week-long festival, you're planning all year long. Like you start planning way earlier than the festival actually takes place. I mean, that's when we started talking about doing the San Diego Comedy Festival. We started planning, in 2013.
Yeah. Well, it was 2013. The festival what happened in January 2014.
Mm-hmm.
Probably it was summer. It was definitely summertime, maybe early.
Yeah,
summer.
It was like June, I want to say.
Yeah, so it was about a good 7 months of planning to get it up and running. And you and I mean, we'll tell the backstory behind it. You and I initially were just going to do it ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Then, we're going to do our own comedy festival.
Yeah, but we knew the Comedy Palace guys owned the name San Diego Comedy Festival. So we were going to do
America's Finest. Yep.
Which would have been way better. Anyway, just kidding. So we didn't want to step on George and Tony's feet over at the Comedy Palace. We knew that we worked with them quite a bit. So we reached out to George, and of course, George was like, "Oh yeah, let's do the festival." I'm like, "No, we're asking if Dan and I can do it ourselves."
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay. I guess we're all a team now, George. And
yeah. Well, yeah, and it was that, or kind of be competitors, if you will. And I think teaming up was probably a better move, because
they had owned the name for a few years.
Yeah, it seemed like they were working on it for a while and just never really pulled the trigger on it until we came and helped get it going. It does take a lot of work. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes and a lot of things that you got to do. I mean, it's crazy, trying to reach out, find sponsors, and do advertising and all the stuff that you got to try to do. Not to mention, assembling a screening crew to watch videos. Yeah. That's tedious. Talk about tedious. Right there alone, that is worth your submission fee for the poor souls that have to watch hundreds and hundreds of videos.
Yeah, we keep it out of our hands too. I mean, we wanted to keep it out of our hands so we didn't have that backlash also where comics were like, "How come I didn't get in? I thought we were bros."
Yeah.
Like, well, your position's not that funny. We have these screeners, trying to have some independent screeners actually watch the videos, and
yeah, well, you got to. But even that still doesn't matter.
Yeah. So it's still opinion. It's all opinion based. It's all subjective. So one person might find someone funny, another person might find someone not funny. And, people have egos, and some people get in, some people don't.
Yep. Well, and a good example of this, I got a story about this. Somebody came at me about one of the years at the San Diego Comedy Festival, and I'm not going to name names, but this particular comic didn't get in, and one of his buddies did, and his buddy actually did really well and got, I want to say he was in the top 3. I'm not going to say the place, but then after the festival, we were at, I think it was Till 2 was the place, and they were doing, for whatever reason, they were doing like a tandem style night where you'd go up with another comic and you could like draw out of a bucket or whatever. They were doing off the thing or whatever. And this comic wanted to go up with me. And I was like, all right, I could sense some hostility. So I kind of figured what was about to happen. And he brought me up. We went up together, and he basically tried to set me up about the festival and why he didn't get in. And then, I held my own, and I just, I straight up, by the time it was done, when we were done, I feel like it was kind of a shitty thing for him to try to do, to set me up like that. But I was aware enough to know that it was coming. So I was like, well, this is what it is, and while we were up there, I explained to him, I said, his particular video, while you could hear laughter, you really couldn't hear that comic. You couldn't hardly see him.
if it's who I'm thinking of, the camera was behind him.
Yeah, it was like,
It was
no,
like
no, no,
at an
no.
angle
This,
behind.
nope, nope. This was a front view.
We'll talk later
What?
after, but
Yeah,
I
no,
think
this
it's
was
who-
a.
if it's who I
It was
think
a.
it is, the camera.
Yeah, the camera wasn't good. The camera angle wasn't good. It wasn't from behind, but it was a ways away is what the problem was. So you could hardly see the comic. And then
Okay.
their shirt actually was the same color as the background, and so you really couldn't see them. You couldn't hardly hear them. There was good laughter, but you couldn't necessarily hear the jokes or whatever. So the audio wasn't the greatest, and there was all kinds of little things like that play a big part in us, getting selected into a festival. Because if screeners can't hear your jokes and they can't see you, it's hard for them to judge what's going on, But yeah, he like kept pressing to me, and then we went up there, did the thing or whatever. And when it was done, I think he understood where the festival was coming from. But at the same time, you got all these comics there that, because they're buddies or whatever, thinking, oh, he's going to get me. And I'm like, your friend just won a bunch of money. That's going to pay his rent for the month and this, and this. So you tell me what a sham. So keep telling me what a sham this festival is, And they just pretty much, when it was all said and done, I think most of the people that were in the room sided with me.
Yeah, I know. We also had, I think that first year, I know I had someone say, how come you didn't select this person? This person's done this, this, and this. And then we looked back at the video. I think I sent the video to the person, and it was like a 20, 30-second video. So it's like, how can you let someone off a 20-second video or 30-second video?
Yeah, yeah.
So it was like, well, if this person's so great at comedy, they should know better than to send a 30-second video.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the thing I've seen a lot too. Like a lot of times you have to follow the instructions of the submission guidelines. You know what I mean? Like every festival has their own guidelines for what they want out of a video. And a lot of them are time requirements. It's a 3 to 5 minute video, and some people will send you a whole half hour, or like you said, some people will only send you like 1 minute, that kind of thing. And if you don't, that's funny. If you don't pay attention to oh shit. Oh, sorry about that. You didn't hear, I might have heard that. We got a tornado warning over here. Oh, sorry about that.
Oh,
huh?
Twin City tornado.
Yep, could be. That's what it said. Tornado warning. So hopefully we don't get one. But anyway, but you got to really pay attention to the time guidelines, and all the guidelines, because a lot of times, the festival producers are going to be too busy to email you and be like, hey, you sent the submission, you didn't follow the guidelines, can you send us something else? They're just going to be like, well, you're DQ'd, plain and simple. And it sucks, but at the same time, they have a right to kind of do that. What's that?
Yeah, I think I was a little more lenient. On the festivals that we ran.
Yeah.
As far as letting people know, hey, because they did pay money, but at the same time, like, they should follow the rules. You know what I mean? So, but if you don't follow the rules, that's on you.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like I said, it's just a matter of reading whatever the guidelines are.
Mm-hmm. And we state no refunds, even though we have given refunds.
Mm-hmm. But that
at least
a lot of festivals won't.
The person said, this person threatened to sue. Like, sue for what? And I think this person sent a video that was it was just audio, and it was like a storytelling audio.
Yeah,
video.
Yep. It wasn't even a stand-up.
YouTube. Yeah, I was like, this isn't even stand-up.
It was like a podcast.
My money back. I'm like, there's no. Yeah, I'm like, all right, this is fine. If you're gonna cause a ruckus, it's where I think this was for Paul Bunyan Festival, where we were trying to raise money for the Alzheimer's Association. You know what I mean? So like you and I weren't taking a whole lot of money for that either.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you don't want to donate to the Alzheimer's Association, you don't have to donate to the Alzheimer's Association.
No, exactly. That's the thing. So we actually got a question on how do you choose a comic with only 5 minutes of tape? It seems short. It is short, but here's the thing. If when you a lot of comedy festivals will get, you know, anywhere depending on the type of festival, you could get 100 to 3, 4, 500 videos, and if you went 10-minute videos, you would never get through them all. You have to keep the time to coincide with, you know, being able to have the time to screen them to make the selections, and it is hard. A lot of times what we did, we would use a point system that we would have the screeners do. You know, there was 3 categories and they would rank each comic on a scale of 1 to 10 on those categories, and then you come up with a total, and the comics that had the most points would obviously get into the festival. Because it is hard.
Stage presence, originality.
Yep. Stage. Yep.
Stage originality and overall humor.
Yep. But so yeah, it is hard to choose with only 5 minutes, but you got to do it that way. But that's why you know, you can see, like, a person can do, like, you can see how funny a person is in that amount of time. I mean, a lot of these videos, honestly, within the first minute, you're going to be able to tell if this comic is funny or not. You know, because a lot of times, you know, good, strong comics, 30 seconds into this video, they've already got a good laugh from the audience and, you know, a good joke already.
Mm-hmm. That's why it's key to have, like, something the very beginning of your video that's super strong.
Yeah, exactly. It is. I mean, and to kind of go back on that, what, you know, you're right. 5 minutes of video seems short, and it is, but at the same time, a good 5 minute video can get you in, and you might not be that good. All you need is one good video where you have one good set. And I've seen that happen where comics they had a really good video. They did really well, you know, with the video. So they ended up getting into the festival. They showed up at the festival and were not good at all, you know, and that was, you know, a contest type of festival. They would show up and not be nearly as funny as they were in that video. So it goes both ways.
And do that same bet.
Yeah. But it works the same way. You could not have a good tape and not get in and be super funny. You know what I mean? Like, it is definitely tough, but it's not foolproof. It really isn't. You just got to do your best, and hopefully you have a pretty good screening crew, I guess, you know, that, you know, subjective and diverse. That's the other thing too. You know, you have a good selection of people that are actually screening the videos. Mm-hmm. So, but yeah,
I think we had 3 white males. Is that what we?
All right, let's not get into that. There's enough of that.
We did not.
Yeah. No. So this is a live Q&A. We've been talking about some of the stuff we've done with festivals, but if you have any questions that you would like us to answer to the best of our abilities, just leave a question in the comments. For those of you that are watching, thanks for tuning in. We do appreciate it. This is kind of an impromptu thing tonight. Usually I do my show Renewed, where it's a joke writing workshop, but we decided we'd have some fun with the festival. I will tell you this, you know, one thing with comedy festivals, you got to try to work with big name acts, and sometimes funny stuff happens with that. You have a great story about opening for Kevin Pollak, because that was pretty funny. That was a pretty good thing.
It is funny, but I'll tell it, and then I'll tell why he did what he did as well. It's not a knock on Kevin. It's just something that happened. So 2014, it was the first year San Diego Comedy Festival. The very first show that we had Kevin Pollak headlining from Usual Suspects, A Few Good Men. He's been in a ton of different movies.
Yeah, he's been in Mom. Most people know who he is.
Yeah, most people know. So there's still a lot who don't. Anyway, so we had Kevin Pollak. So Dan hosted, I featured, and Kevin headlined, obviously. And we did this at a event center at a hotel. So like a big, I don't know,
Big room. No, it was an event center, so there was it could have fit.
600.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's 600. So anyway, so this is like the biggest show I'd done at this point in my career, and opening for Kevin Pollak, big name comic. So Dan goes up, he does well. I go up. This is the best set I've ever had at my point in my career, by far the best that I've ever had. So all day we have been driving Kevin around to do media and stuff. So Dan, he knows Dan and I are his
Brandon.
Contacts. Hey, good set. Water? It's like, good set. Can you get me a water? So, but I'm one of his only contacts. So at the time he's about to go up on stage, but I was up here like in this really high, like, yeah, this is great. And all of a sudden it's like, yeah, you're the headliner. I'm down here. Down here.
Yeah. Right. Oh man, that was funny.
And, he did well, and
yeah,
show was good.
Oh, too funny. Oh, we do have another question. So how diverse do you think the average screening committee is? I really think that's based on the festival, what kind of festival it is, who's running it. Like there's a lot of factors, that would go into that, where it is in the country too, like location and that kind of thing. I mean, for us, we try to, to have both male and female. We try to have, people of color, try to keep it as mixed as we can. I mean, you can't always have all the diversity that you want, because when you ask somebody to watch 300 videos, 5-minute clips, that's so time consuming. And I've had a lot of people who've been like, oh yeah, I'd love to do it. And then they start and they're like, yeah, I really can't do this. They're like,
we try to have comics that we sometimes, and then non-comics who are comedy fans who we trust their opinions on.
Yeah.
So it's all over the place.
Yeah. And it is important to have people that are at least a couple people that are comics to be on the screening committee, because they actually, because a person that doesn't know anything about comedy could see a set that's not good and think it's good, or vice versa. So
yeah, especially when you have like categories like originality in there, the non-comics aren't going to probably be as in the know as far as what's original, what's not original.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Thanks for the question, Madeline. Appreciate that. Yeah, I know. While we're waiting for some more questions, I'll tell a story, because like I said, you book people to come to your festival and perform. And when we were doing the Snow Jam Comedy Festival, one of the best bombs behind the scene wasn't really a bomb, but it was a rejection letter that we got. So when we were putting it together, we started looking at headliners and people who we thought we would have a chance at getting. And so we reached out to Doug Stanhope, because we knew that he's a comic that he would probably, because he does a lot of his own stuff, works on door deals, does his own thing. So we could probably get him in to do a door deal, have a great headliner for our first festival, so on and so forth. Well, the thing about Snow Jam is it takes place in the wintertime. It was February. Now it takes place in January in South Dakota. So it's very cold at this time. And we reached out to him and sent a nice email. And I wasn't expecting to even hear nothing back from him, because it's our first year as a festival. We have no idea if we're going to have a budget. We have no idea. We're just basically just kind of putting out feelers at the moment. And he sends us a nice little letter back. And the letter says, it was the greatest rejection too, because he goes, I really appreciate you guys thinking of me, but every comedian has their own level of success. And my level of success means I don't ever have to come to South Dakota in the wintertime again. And funny thing about it is he had been to South Dakota probably a few years before in the winter, and it was super cold. So considering he lives in Arizona, not his.
Yeah, that's the level of fame I think and stardom we want to be at, where we can
Right.
just do whatever we want to do.
Yeah, exactly. I bet you it's. I kind of think about that sometimes. If we would have did the festival in the summertime, if that would have been different, I bet you we probably could have got him then, because that was the main thing. Was just the winter. That's what he didn't want. But and like I said, it was super nice, because then he was like, "I really appreciate you guys reaching out to me, and good luck with your festival." So pretty funny. We'll give it a couple more minutes and see if anybody else has any more questions, and then I don't know, maybe we'll just wrap up, unless you have some stuff to add.
I still want to talk about the positives of festivals.
Go for it.
I know part of bombing, but one of the awesome things that I've been, I would say that it's been a blessing, is just the comics that you do work with. Now, not all of them are great as far as human beings, but a majority of them are pretty awesome. And I think we've met some really awesome people in our years of festival producing that hopefully will be around in our lives for a while. So that's been one of the huge pros of comedy festivals.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Networking alone is great. I mean, and that's the thing too, if you get into a comedy festival and you go to a comedy festival, it's important to kind of get to know the other comics, because it's something that I've kind of discovered the more I've done comedy. There are bookers and there are producers that will help you get paying gigs, but a lot of the paid gigs that I've got in my career have come from other comics, where you get in good with a headliner and suddenly they're in your area and they need a feature. And then they're like, well, I know Brandon, so I'm going to give Brandon a call and see if he's available, or, that kind of thing. So it is definitely good to network.
I gave Larry Smith some crap a little earlier in the episode, but Larry's a good dude, and he brought me down to Springfield, Illinois, when I was living in Michigan a couple years ago. It wasn't like a high paying thing or anything. I was just trying to get on the road a little bit more. And he's like, hey, I got this fundraiser. You want to be a part of it? And it didn't pay a ton or anything like that. But he actually hooked me up with a hotel room, which he didn't have to do. And that was super nice of him. And so I look at Larry. Larry's one of the awesome dudes that I've met. Alex Kane, just the most recent of the Paul Bunyan Comedy Festivals, Ager, Maxie and Ellen. So just those. And Tom Chilstrom, he's all right, I guess. But
yeah, he's a pretty nice dude. We got some questions coming in.
Tom's
I like this.
Oh, we got questions.
We do. We got how do you determine who starts right before breaks and after breaks, etc. A lot of times it depends on the festival, really. For us, because we don't do a lot of breaks either. Like as far as we have shows, and that's the show. Once it starts, there are no breaks in between during that show. So a show will typically run 80 to 90 minutes, and the comics that are selected for that show will perform until the show's over. Order depends, because like on a contest, a lot of times it's random, where the comics have to draw for their spot to try to keep it fair, and they draw right before they get there. So, and a lot of times we just randomize it, or sometimes I book. What was that? You cut out.
We drew randomly for Paul. For Paul Bunyan.
Yep. Well, and then
contest.
No, but we did draw random. And sometimes, like, if I know the comics, like if I'm booking a show or trying to set up a thing, I would, I try to make it the best show possible. So like if I know that, and it's not a contest, obviously, but if there's a group of comics and there are some that aren't as good or experienced as others, I'll try to work it out. So the show, like if there's a comic that's not as strong, I'll have them followed by a comic who is strong. So in case this comic doesn't do well or loses the room, this other person can try to bring the room back and that kind of thing. And so I try to keep it as balanced as possible, just so overall it's a great show. because at the end of the day, that's what we want. We want that show to be a great show. Like, we're not trying. It's nice if one comic outshines, but that's not the experience. The people that come to a show, they don't want to just see one funny comic. They want to see a funny show. So I try to keep it like that when I think about that.
And piggybacking off that, there are some shows that do bomb, and it's not because of the comics. We've had some where the audiences just weren't an audience.
Mm-hmm.
They've been like a handful of people. So,
yep.
and that's the risk you take with producing these festivals. They're not all going to sell out. You might have some sellout shows, but you can't sell out it's difficult to sell out a 3 p.m. Saturday clean show in a bar in a small town in Michigan. Like,
it's hard to do. Yeah. That's funny. All right, so we got
or you try to produce an art of bombing live art of bombing with an audience, and that doesn't happen either because it's on a Saturday in a small town in Michigan.
Yeah, exactly. But the good thing with that is at least comics were there to watch. So that helped. Yeah. So what makes a great submission video? What makes a great submission video? What are the best places to film? That is a great question. One of the first things that I will say that makes a great submission video is determined by what the festival is asking for. We touched on this at the beginning of this stream, but you really need to check on the guidelines of what a festival is looking for in their submissions, because they will vary from festival to festival. So one of the best things that makes a great submission video is following the festival's guidelines. So that means if they say they want a 3 to 5 minute video, you make sure your video is 3 to 5 minutes. If they want a 5 to 10 minute, you give them a 5 to 10 minute. Another thing is not to be introduced. You don't need a host should not be introducing you. There shouldn't be, any delay of you coming on stage or anything like that. It should start with you already on stage, getting ready to tell your first joke. Having a good, I always say, and maybe you have a different opinion on this, but when it comes to the video quality, I prefer a half shot. So it's basically from the hips up, and not a lot of like overhead space. So it's a good frame from your waist to the top of your head, and somewhat wide. So if you're moving around the stage, you that way the people watching the videos can see your facial expressions and things like that, because a body movement and facial expressions sometimes are what sells a joke.
Yeah, obviously, if you have and one of the best places to film, if you have you're on Conan, that usually helps. If you're a late night, that tends to help. If you have a Netflix special, that tends to help. But
yeah, and believe me, people have submitted those videos. Huh?
Yeah. I like clubs just because that's a usual place for comedy. But if there's cool little side rooms, like Comedy Heights has good rooms out here in San Diego. Twigs is probably one of the best rooms. You can get a video of that where you can hear the audience. Audience is close to you. You can see the performer. There's not a whole lot of background noise. The person getting the camera isn't the only person laughing. That kind of is awkward. You get those videos as well. So basically, any venue, I'd lean more toward, if you can do it in a comedy club, do it in a comedy club. But if you're opening for, you're open for like Larry the Cable Guy or a huge name comic, then that video in an arena isn't bad either.
Yeah, that's for sure. I would also say with, open mics are not necessarily a good place to record a video unless there's a good crowd. That's one thing. I have seen a lot of videos that you could tell were filmed at an open mic and there was only maybe 5 other comics not paying attention, because one of the things screeners are going to look at, they're going to look at the audience reaction to your jokes. And if there's no audience to react, they'll be able to tell if it's funny or not, but it really helps know how funny the joke is when you can see when you can hear the crowd react. So like Brandon was saying, any kind of a comedy club that has a good crowd, or even an alt show, if there's a good crowd and you can get a good video out of it, that's where those would be the best places to go. I'd like to add too, on quality, sound is so important. Kind of going with what Brandon said, not hearing the person operating the camera lap, because that goes over it. You really want to have good, clear audio and good, clear video. It doesn't have to be the best video out there or the best quality sound, but the clearer the audio, the clearer the video, the better the submission's going to be, right? Those two things alone. Because we've had submissions where you could hear people talking over the video, or people laughing over the video, or you could not even hear the person, or it was super loud, or just all kinds, anything you can think of. We've probably seen it in the sound quality. And like camera noise, like if you have a camera that's old and makes like a ticking sound, or if there's a refrigerator running right next to it, it's all distracting, because that's what happens. What's that?
Better go catch it if your refrigerator's running.
Oh, God. Oh, I can't believe I waited for you to respond. But, yeah, so, yeah, like I said, the quality, the sound and video are really important for that. Making sure those two things are good. Like I said, it doesn't have to be the best. You don't need like a multi-camera special for 5 minutes, but a decent quality camera and whatnot. So Madeline's got another question already. That's great. What do you do about more traditional acts, music, etc.? Honestly, for me,
it's more non-traditional acts.
Yeah, what do you do what do you do about non-traditional, it really depends on what the festival's looking for. That's another thing that kind of goes from festival to festival. So like when we would do stuff with the San Diego Comedy Festival, we had musical acts that were in there. In fact, one year, comedy musical duo actually made it to the finals of the contest, and I think they got third or fourth, something like that. So, funny's funny. That's the first and foremost thing about submitting to any festival, is be funny. You got to be funny.
Yeah. In San Diego, we had the one dude who was in a boy band when he was a teen, and he wasn't in the contest part of it, but he was like just in the showcase. And he murdered.
Mm-hmm.
I can't his name offhand, because that was like 6 years ago. But he had a terrific set, and it was a Jamie. I can't remember her last name, and Paul Bunny song. She had jokes, but she did some songs also. Jamie Miller, is that her last name? Anyway,
yep, something like that. Yeah,
she crushed. So
yeah,
I know we've had at least one improv troupe that can get in. So it's really what the screeners.
Yeah, but also improv.
If it's stand up, go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, if improv is harder to judge in a stand-up situation, you know what I mean? Like, it's one thing if you're a musical duo, or you're doing, like you said, stand-up tandem style. That's one thing, but like with improv, it's harder to bring in a whole troupe for a contest that's meant for stand-up comedy. So it really depends on what you're looking for whatever show, But as far as like solo, non-traditional acts, I've seen at all the festivals, we've had music types, or we've had comics that I would say are alty in the fact that they do characters, like their whole act is based on a character, using a character stage name, that sort of thing. Like I said, funny's funny. That's the first and foremost thing with it.
Yeah, and there are some festivals that do gear toward more variety of comedy. So they'll state, "Hey, we're looking for musical act, looking for improv, looking for this." So there are a few festivals that are like that. Now, the festivals that we produced were more strictly stand-up, but that doesn't mean. I mean, there's so many festivals out there. It's just incredible how many festivals there are.
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think this is going to be a good time to wrap up. We want to thank you guys for watching. I want to wrap up because it is getting a little nasty outside now. There's thunder and lightning, and I'd rather end without just being disconnected involuntarily. So in case the power goes out, I'd like to, yeah, right. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Brandon. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram, Twitter, and I think Facebook at B Young Comedy. Should put that in there at B Young Comedy. And my dry bar special will be out hopefully in the next couple months. We'll look for that.
Cool. All right.
Anything
Sweet.
Else, go
well,
to BrandonYoungComedy.com.
Excellent. BrandonYoungComedy.com. Be Young Comedy on the Instagram and the Twitter. And look for the dry bar special coming soon. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in and have a good night.